All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this month's KeyShot webinar. I am, of course, Josh Mings, Marketing Manager here at Luxion. Today, we are incredibly excited to give you a first look at KeyShot 4, the new features, and a load of new enhancements that we've included with this version of KeyShot. Now, Rex Roberts, our digital media kingpin, he'll be going through a few of the top features coming to KeyShot 4 and also the new live linking functionality that we have in plugins. We'll keep an eye on your questions and do our best to answer them as they come in. First, we want to answer the big question: when is KeyShot 4 being released? Now, you probably all know it's currently in private beta. The official launch is slated for February. We'll make sure that you all know about it, so don't worry about that. Now, what we'll be showing here is a beta version of KeyShot 4, so please be advised that the development is still in progress, bugs are being addressed, and what you see may or may not be in the final release. So we'll take care to note any particulars throughout the webinar. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you KeyShot 4 and Mr. Rex Roberts.
All right, thanks a lot, Josh. So
Yes.
Once again, I just want to express how excited I am to share these new features and enhancements that we've made to KeyShot 4. I really think that these new features are going to help improve your workflow, improve efficiency, not only in KeyShot, but all the way from CAD through KeyShot into post-production. So last week was SolidWorks World in Orlando, Florida, and that was our official launch of KeyShot 4. So if any of you guys got a chance to check that out, you may have seen some of these features live in action. But for those of you who didn't, you will be able to see those today. One of the most popular features there at SolidWorks World was, of course, the live linking, which we will go into. Some other features include physical lights, PANTONE and RAL color libraries, mold tech textures, render passes, model sets, view sets, rounded edges. There's a lot of new stuff. So I'm going to touch on as much as I can today, and we'll go over the stuff kind of quickly, and if we have time at the end, we can come back and look at each of the features in more depth. So let's go ahead and get started. So we'll launch up KeyShot 4 here, and it appears very similar to KeyShot 3 at first glance, but one of the huge UI improvements is the dockable windows. So if I press spacebar to bring up my project window, I can simply double-click here, and now I have my window docked in place. The same goes for the materials library as well as the animation dialog. So this really helps clean up the UI and makes it a lot easier to work in full screen mode. If you noticed before, in KeyShot 3, sometimes you're working in your real-time window and you have this overlap of windows that might get a little annoying. So here we can enable this docking and just really clean things up, makes it a lot easier to use. So we can go ahead and hide some of these windows for now, and we'll go ahead and import some geometry. Okay. So let's see here. There we go. Okay, so if you see the import dialog, this is what will come up first. Very simple. You can go ahead and import it with the default settings, or you can click on the drop-down to show your settings. Now, one of the improvements we've made to the import pipeline is the ability to keep original location and size that you've modeled in your modeling software. So we can also adjust the environment to fit the geometry. Before, in KeyShot 3, we would actually scale your model to fit in the default environment size of 25. But now we're able to maintain units as well as scale, so we can make sure that we have an accurate scale when we're working with multiple models in the same scene. So let's go ahead and import this. So we have our environment showing right now, and if we zoom out, we can see our environment sphere. And go over to our environment tab, we can see this is quite a large value, but that doesn't affect resolution. KeyShot still performs just as well as ever with this larger environment size. We can always bring this down. But this is really nice, like I said, when working with multiple models in the same scene, you know that your geometry respects the original scale. So if we go ahead and bring in a second import here, we can see that we have another option for update geometry. So this is essentially live linking, and for those of you who aren't working with either Rhino, Creo, or SolidWorks, which we've made the live linking plugin available, you can still enjoy that live linking feature by using this update geometry. So let's show you the live linking, one of the most exciting features that we have for you here. If I open up SolidWorks, we have our KeyShot 4 license plate frame here. We've already applied shaders to our separate materials, so we're pretty much ready to go. If you guys saw last week's newsletter, I put out a quick tip showing you how to use the KeyShot 3 plugin just to push over your render. And now with the KeyShot 4 plugin, you can see we have a couple other options here, export and update, and we'll get into that. So if I just click render to push this over to KeyShot 4, we'll open up. Let's make this a little easier to see what's going on here. So you can see maintained color and our part structure here. So this allows really for seamless model updates between CAD and KeyShot. So if we want to apply some materials, we can find anodized. So here. Okay, so we've applied our materials in KeyShot, and let's say this frame was going on the back of a car, and we needed these two bottom screws to secure the license plate frame down. Here, I've created a cut extrude to create those holes. And if we want to push that over to KeyShot, we can simply go to KeyShot 4 and update our geometry. Take a moment to push that over, and there you can see our holes are right there. Now, I think we'll keep it clean for now and remove those. So once again, just update, push that over. And not only does it maintain materials, but also animations as well. So let's add a quick animation here. We can multi-select our parts by holding Control. Or here we can click in the real-time view to find our part in the scene tree and add a translation. We'll scrub ahead to see where we're going there. So let's use the Z-axis for this translation. Okay, and then we can copy our animation, find our other parts, paste that linked animation. Okay, so now we have the frame kind of exploding off of our license plate there. Now if we were to go back into SolidWorks and show our extruded cut holes again, update, and we still maintain our animation in our materials while pushing over that new geometry. So this feature is really awesome, and it's going to help improve your efficiency by a significant amount. Many times before, you're forced to save a new version and import, and that can be very time-consuming. So this new feature of live linking with Creo, Rhino, and SolidWorks is an awesome feature, and I hope you guys are looking forward to it as much as I am. Okay. We'll hide our animation there. Put that on a white color so you can see it a little better. And let's bring up our materials library. So if you notice here, we've actually added another tab for color libraries. So here you can find your PANTONE colors, RAL colors. We've also added some KeyShot default colors, and you can drag and drop these predefined colors onto a part independent of its material. So it'll maintain that anodized aluminum, but we simply drag and drop our color swatch onto that part to change that color. Now if we know that we wanted a red, we could type in red, and we have this color proximity search that will find the nearest value to red. So I think that's a pretty cool feature. Not only can you search within the existing library here, we can use a color picker to find something on the screen, or if we know an RGB value, we can type that in, and when we press OK, it'll give us the closest values to that color. Okay. So then let's look over here at our scene tab. If we collapse everything, we can see our license plate model, and we now have a properties and position tab. So position tab will give you your move tool if you want to translate, rotate, or scale. And we also have the absolute values. Now, in our Properties tab, here we can rename our group, our model. We can unlink all of our materials. If we had not applied shaders before, just simply unlink with the unlink button. You also notice render layers and model sets. So we'll get into those in a little bit. If we expand this and look on the part level, you'll notice rounded edges feature here. So let's pause this and just open up a new KeyShot 4 window. Go ahead and just import a simple cube to illustrate these rounded edges. And it looks like we're cutting through the ground plane there. So I'm going to select my model, position, map to ground. There we go, that's better. So then if we go down to our part level in our Properties tab, and we can go ahead and add a radius. Now this doesn't actually change the geometry of the model, so at certain angles you may be able to see that corner there, but it does a really nice job of softening these edges to catch a highlight. If this was plastic material with nice specular, we can start catching those highlights there on those edges. Now, since we're not actually changing the geometry, this feature is intended for smaller radiuses, and it starts working a lot better when you use these very small values of, I'd say, less than 0.1 to be safe. And then you can also control the angle, the minimum edge angle that you're looking to fill it. So on this cube, all these angles are the same, but if we had multiple edge angles, we can have a little more control over that. Okay. Let's go back to our license plate here, and we'll actually scrub our animation back to the beginning. We'll just hide it for now. And again, let's look at our scene tree here. On the model level, we can go ahead and add this model to layer 0. So with these render layers and render passes, we have this manual input to add certain parts to certain layers. So if I select this part in my real-time window, I can go ahead and select parts with this material, and there it'll select both of those parts for me, and I can go ahead and add those parts to a layer. So now when I render this out and take it into photo editing software like Photoshop, we have a lot more control between these individual parts and materials. So this was the manual output of render layers. We also have an option for render passes. So if you open up your render options and go down to passes here, we can include a depth pass, geometric normal pass, clown pass, and enabling those render layers, which we defined here. So let's see if we can just do a quick rendering for you guys to see that. Okay. Thought I saved that to the desktop there. Okay, good. Oops, looks like I opened up SolidWorks 2012. Sorry about this, guys. Okay, well, let's point this to a different location. And try that again. Oh, here they are. Okay, so here was our full rendering. And here you can see the layers. Remember, we put these two side frame pieces on a separate layer. So there they are, showing up by themselves there for easy post-production editing. We also have this clown path that makes it very easy to select your parts and materials with your magic wand tool in Photoshop to create masks. And we did have this functionality in KeyShot 3, but you had to manually apply flat shaders to each of these parts. Now this has been automated, so KeyShot will automatically apply shaders, flat shaders, in this clown path when you have that selected in your render output. We also have our depth and our normal path. So for those of you that work in post-production a lot, these may be helpful for you. Probably not for a smaller rendering like this, but if you have a larger scene, these depth and normal passes give you a lot more options and help increase that workflow in post-production. Okay. So, yeah, let's talk about model sets now. So here, if we want to duplicate this model, or we could simply import second model, and we have different color for this one here. We can add this model to model set, and we can add our first model to a model set. And to toggle through the model sets, we just press our hotkey Shift-M, and we can quickly and easily toggle through our model iterations and configurations without having to hide and unhide other models in your scene. Okay. All right, let's change up this model, get something else in here. We'll close this, open a new session. and import our portal gun. All right, so let's quickly paint this up. Open up our material library. So we have a strategic partnership with Mold Tech, and we have some really great textures to offer. There's 3 included in the build, but we'll have several more to offer. So the Mold Tech materials are just a plastic material with the proprietary Mold Tech textures already applied. So you can change the color, the depth, and the scale, just like any other texture that you've worked with. Let's get a little better environment here to see what's going on. Okay. Continue to paint this up. So these Mold Tech textures are going to be really beneficial for those of you working with textured plastics. A little more robust than some of our included textures in KeyShot 3. Let's go ahead and increase the scale a little more. Well, good for now. Okay. We've also improved our translucent material. So now supports specular maps and also works very well with physical lights. So let's talk about our new physical lights. Just want to change this to the glass. I'll unlink that from the shell. Change this to a glass material. You can see we have our tube in here. So we can just pull up our material palette here in the project window, double click to edit our material. And in the past, if you wanted this to be a light emitting material, you would use the emissive, which the emissive works very well when working with smaller geometry. So in this case, I think I would like to keep this as an emissive, maybe bump this up a little bit. And let's bring in a darker environment so we can see these lights. So still a little dark. Say we wanted to add another light here. So let's talk about our new light source materials. You can see in the drop-down menu we have 3 new materials: the point light diffuse, which is going to have a low fall off for harder shadows. The area light diffuse will have a higher fall off for softer shadows, and IES profile lights will allow you to load up your own IES profiles to accurately represent real-world lighting. So you can apply any of these materials to existing geometry in your scene, or if we wanted to import some geometry and bring in this disk and position this over our model. And so let's turn this to a point light diffuse. You can see when I do so, it actually hides that geometry and it is represented as a single dot. We'll work on improving this visualization. But for now, we'll see if we increase our power, which can be controlled by either watts or lumens. You can see that point light starts to have an effect there. And change it to a diffuse light. Increase that power, and you can see it having effect on the translucent material. In the past, the translucent material wasn't really compatible with our light materials. So there's still something missing here in this scene. We have our model lit, but the floor looks pretty bare. So let's go ahead and add a ground plane by going up to Edit, Add Ground Plane. And now you can see this ground plane just is very robust with our physical lights. And it really adds a nice effect to our scene. We can probably turn this down a bit. And now you can see we have our nice soft shadow. If we went back to our point light, now we can see that creates those hard shadows there. So you can combine these lights with your render passes and set up one pass to render out your shadow if you want a hard shadow. Say if you're working in automotive, a lot of times they have a nice hard shadow which is created by the sun. So you can represent that here. So let's talk about the third type of light is the IES profile. When selecting this type, we're prompted to import an IES profile. So we'll choose this one. And this guy should be updating to the IES wireframe geometry. So let's see if I can get that to show up there. So we know this disk is a light material. It's represented by this light bulb. Let's see if we can somehow get that IES wireframe to show. Let's just go ahead and save this and reopen it. Well, it appears our IES profile doesn't want to cooperate right now. And ladies and gentlemen, this is why this is a beta build, and Josh gave you that nice disclaimer. But this is something I'm really excited about, and I want you to be able to see this. Well, maybe if we move on, we'll trigger that IES wireframe to show up there. So let's go back and talk about our ground plane here. So we can see that our ground plane has been added into our scene, but it still supports transparency if we were to put a different environment in here. We can see that our ground plane still allows you to see through to the backplate or your background you've created. And we can also, if we edit our material, we can see that this is a ground type material here. And we can clip our geometry if our gun was slightly below the ground. We can clip that geometry without that showing through underneath. So that is very helpful, say, if you are rendering out a boat and you were partially submerged in the water. You can clip that geometry that sits below water level. And the other great thing about ground plane is that it supports texture, bump maps, specular, and opacity. So you could apply a water or wave-like bump map to your ground material if you were rendering out a boat there. You also have a lot more control over the level of reflectivity. So if we change our specular to a white, then we can start seeing that reflection showing through. And if we go to our advanced drop-down menu, we can increase our refraction index and pump that reflection out even more. Okay. Our IES light still isn't showing up here, so let me try and import another piece of geometry. See if we can get this to work. Okay. So position it above our model, double click to edit the material, and we'll choose to add an IES profile. So that's still not cooperating. I'll get that to work and post up a quick video or a screenshot so you guys can see what that looks like, because I'm really excited about this feature. Another awesome feature is view sets. So now you are able to not only save your camera, but actually add a view set which includes all your environment settings as well as your camera settings. So if we set this up as a view set and we wanted to change our angle and add a different environment, we can add a backplate. I have a lot of files in here. Sorry. Okay. So we've added our back plate, and we've changed our camera view, changed our environment. So now we can add another view set. And that's not cooperating either. But essentially, you should be able to save background, environment settings, camera settings, all with this Add View Set feature. And then toggle through those view sets by pressing Shift-N to toggle through your cameras and your view sets. And then also you can see for the camera we've added absolute positioning. So we have smaller increments of adjustment available with absolute settings here. And let's open up our environment editor, HDR editor. Resize this window. We can see what's going on. And this awesome feature that's been added in our HDR editor is the ability to add a highlight in the real-time window. So if I right-click, I can set a highlight. And you can see here it says Control-click for a new. So if I want to position a light here, then it will automatically add that light in my HDRI to correspond to that positioning. And then we can further adjust that pin to achieve what we're looking for. You can click and drag in your scene to move that pin around, or you can Control-click to add a new pin. And if we go over to our Adjustments tab, you can also see we've introduced a blur effect. So if you have an HDR that's already been created, you can soften that up and increase that fall-off value manually here on your own. Another cool one is the tilt function. So when you're trying to achieve those very specific reflections across your displays or screens, this tilt effect is really going to help with that. All right, so there's a few other features that we have. We can export to OBJ. So we can go ahead and export our existing geometry from KeyShot directly into something you can bring back into your modeling software if necessary. Also introduce some UI cleanup in the VR wizard. We now have a tumble mode for a full 360-degree interactive view of your product. And unfortunately, I can't show you guys the 3D viewing, the stereo viewing. But here we can say enable stereoscopic mode. And if you have a 3D enabled display with some 3D glasses, it's a pretty cool effect. All right, so that's pretty much it. Josh, is there anything that I missed that you'd like to talk about?
Well, let's see here. Questions. Go ahead and throw out any more questions that you might have. We've been going through and answering as many as we can. There's a lot here. Let's see. We'd be able to build our own IES profiles or only presets?
I'm not familiar with the method of actually creating the IES lights, but there are tons of resources online for, say, free IES pack download. So here's 25 IES lights pack for free. And the benefit of using the IES lights is that they accurately represent real-world lighting. So if you, say, have a light in your scene and you know exactly which bulb is used in that light, there's oftentimes IES profiles created specifically for that light and that bulb. And then you can get that representation that you're really looking for.
Okay, we have a couple questions on beta. We are in beta. We are so close to release, though, that we will not have another beta phase. So right now, if a new purchase of KeyShot 3, you can get a free upgrade to KeyShot 4, and be expecting the release of KeyShot 4 here in next month. Let me look through the questions here. Yes, did you show the stereoscopic render mode?
No, I didn't, and I don't have the 3D enabled monitor. It's actually still being sent over from SolidWorks World, so unfortunately can't show that today.
Gotcha.
Okay, just looking through some more of these questions.
Improvements to the translucent skin, translucent material. I think you mentioned that briefly.
Yeah, I did. Just the way that this translucent material is calculated has become a lot faster, and you can see that start resing up on screen there. So it's actually includes faster real-time res and also faster output, render output when using that translucent material.
And they also respect the emissive material?
Yes, that's correct. In the past, the emissive material has not interacted properly with our translucent, but now we have improved that. So the emissive and also our new light materials, they work very robust with the translucent material, allowing that light to penetrate through and bounce around inside of that material. somebody asked if you can move and rotate multiple parts, assemblies at the same time. And sure, all you need to do is multi-select in your scene tree. And we have our move tool here. So now we have all of our geometry selected in our scene, and we can move those all at once. All right, well, I think that about covers it.
Yeah, if you have any further questions, you can email them in to us. Again, be looking for KeyShot 4 in February, and remember right now, if you buy KeyShot 3, the upgrade to KeyShot 4 is free. We also have a promo going until January 31st, which is just 2 days away, where you can get a free 3D connection, 3D mouse with your purchase of KeyShot. So we've got those two deals. They can be combined, so just jump all over that, okay? This wraps up the webinar, and to see any past webinars or quick tips, you can visit keyshot.com/learning. We'll have this recorded and posted up there as well. So thanks again, everyone, and have a great day.
All right, thanks, guys. Bye.